Sometimes I wonder, sadly, honestly, if all of this is just a waste of time. Amen. Sometimes I wonder, as the 3 weeks hits us, if at the end of the day, it's all just a waste of time. Even tonight, as I sat down on the floor and I had the Sudah Mafseket, and I had pita bread and the egg and the ashes, and I put on my non-leather shoes, and I sat separate from the rest of the house. I really honestly wondered if it's all just a waste of time. Because the reality is, and I think you'll all agree, that all of us fully believe that we will be here next year. I would be very, very shocked if there's anybody in this room who wholeheartedly believes that we will not be here next year. I'm telling you the truth. If I was a betting man, I think I'd probably bet that we are here next year. So if that's the case, then this whole thing is just basically just a big waste of time. Because we could put on non-leather shoes and we could eat the egg and we could eat the bread and we could fast. We could wash up until our knuckles. We can come to shul. We could grin and bear it for a couple of hours. But at the end of the day, it's just a waste of time. If we leave this Tisha B'Av with that same thought as we had when we came into Tisha B'Av, it's a big problem. This speech and this night is unlike any other night of the year. Because very often, my responsibility is to inspire. And my responsibility is to inform. Maybe it's even to enlighten. But the truth is, tonight, I'm kind of speaking from the heart. And I'm hoping, as it says, that the words that come out from my heart go into your heart. I am the same as you right now, 100%. Which means any reason that brought us to Tisha B'Av, I bear the same responsibility. I might even bear it even more. So when I say it's all just a waste of time, I'm telling you that in my mind, I come into Tisha B'Av with guilt. I come into Tisha B'Av feeling as though it is in part because of me that we are once again here. There is a very unfair line from Chazal. I think it's unfair. And most of you know this line. Most of you have heard this line from the Yerushalmi. You may not know where it's from, and you may not know how to say it explicitly, but most people have heard this line before. Any generation that has not rebuilt the Bet HaMikdash in their generation, it is as though they have destroyed the Bet HaMikdash. The truth is, I think that's not fair. And I'll tell you why I think that's not fair. Because everybody knows the reason for the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. But before I tell you why I think it's not fair, let me tell you what the Bet HaMikdash would bring to us. You could think of all the pain in the world. You could think of all the issues and the challenges and the fears that people have. And all of that goes away with the Geula. So you could choose your pain du jour, and you could choose the challenge of the moment, or you could choose something that's in your mind, but that that goes away with the Geula. Which means that there's something that we're doing that's keeping that away. To the degree that it's as though it has been destroyed biyamav, in our time. But I think that's not fair. Because everybody, every child, every 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old knows the reason for the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. And every single person, if they've given one question on this test, every single person would get 100. Why was the Beit HaMikdash destroyed? Everybody would say the same thing, because of Sinat Chinam. Everybody would say it. And that's the natural answer. Sinat Chinam. And we know that the way to get it back is, of course, what's the antidote? People quote, Ahavat Chinam. There's only one problem with that. Is Chazal famously tell us that a person will not be given a test that they cannot pass. You will not be given a nisayon that you cannot overcome. If you have a nisayon, if you have a test, then it is within your capability to overcome that test. Except the challenge of Sinat Chinam feels, at least to me, as though it's an impossible task. Which is why I say, I don't think this line is fair. If the Beit HaMikdash wasn't rebuilt in our time, it is as though we have been the ones that destroyed it. I don't think it's fair. Because Hashem, you gave us a task that is impossible. You didn't just tell us to like other people. You told us, Ahavat Chinam, to love them. And the truth is, loving them seems like an impossible challenge. But I want to share with you the words of the Ramchal. Ramchal says, how could it be that a person can be faulted for not having rebuilt the Beit HaMikdash at his time? Says the Ramchal, here's the reason, because, and I paraphrase, mankind has free choice. And you have the ability to call your own shots. And if you haven't called, or we haven't called the correct shots, then ultimately, because we have not called those shots, the blame falls on us. But you'll say, okay, great. So what is that shot? What is that choice that you want me to make? There was some sort of choice that I didn't make. What was that choice that I have to make? What is my tafkid? What is my mission coming out of this day? Because again, if we don't come out with a mission, then it's all just a waste of time. And there's no way that God is wasting our time. So what's my mission as I leave Tisha B'Av? As I go into the day and hopefully come out of the day? You see, people are very difficult. They're very difficult. To love people is very, very hard. In fact, I think it's impossible. People are different than we are. They see life differently than we are. They're cheaper than us. They're more generous than us. They're richer than us. Sometimes they're poorer than us. They treat us bad. They treat us good. They treat us too good. They treat us too bad. They have different hashkafa than we do. They see the world differently. They like different things than we like. They like different rabbis than we like. People flaunt and they're egotistical. And they create a situation in which they're almost begging me to hate them. In fact, if you take enough time, you could probably convince yourself, we could probably convince ourselves that disliking certain people is probably a mitzvah. Liking people, loving people is very, very, very difficult to do. It's true. Liking your friends is not so hard. Liking your children is not so difficult. Maybe liking your rabbi is not so hard. Or rabbi liking his congregants is not so hard. But loving everybody, that's impossible. But I want to share with you why it's not. I want to share with you why if we exercise our free will, There's a choice that we can make. And the choice that we can make could completely change the tide. As a child, you might remember taking, maybe in a magazine, or maybe one of those gifts out of the cereal box. It's a card, and it has circles on it. And it's what they call an optical illusion. And when you look at it, you can see one thing. And it seems almost as an incoherent image with no real purpose and no real meaning. But then, when you look closer, an image begins to appear within the optical illusion. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You look at it in one angle, and you turn to the person next to you and say, what is it that you're seeing? And then you look closer, and you focus, and something appears, a garden, an animal, a person, a face, an item, a thing, building, something. I want to share with you a Gemara that I once shared in our Knis, in one of our speeches. The Gemara says that there's a story of Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon. And the story goes that Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon was on a horse, or on a donkey rather, on a chamor. And he was happy, says the Gemara. And the Gemara says he was riding on his chamor when he bumped into a person. And that person, says the Gemara, was very ugly. And Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon tells the person, after the person responds to him, the person says to him, Shalom Aleichem Rabbi. How are you, Rabbi? Instead of responding in kind, Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon responds to him, why are you so ugly? And the man says back to him, ask my creator why I'm so ugly. And Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon gets off his donkey, has some sort of epiphany as to what the man said, and says to him, I'm sorry, please forgive me. The man says, no, I won't forgive you. They run away to another city. Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon says, forgive me. He says, no, I won't forgive you. The townspeople say you have to forgive him. He's a big rabbi. I'll only forgive him if he asks my creator why I'm so ugly. This whole story doesn't seem to make any sense. The Chachamim ask, how could it be that Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon, a great person, is calling somebody ugly? It doesn't even make any sense. Shalom Aleichem Rabbi, how are you, Rabbi? Why are you so ugly? It's an incoherent conversation. I want to share with you the answer of Shimshon Pincus. The answer of Shimshon Pincus, Zecher Tzadik Kadosh Livracha, speaks to the mindset and the opportunity and the mission statement of the day that we're in. And that is this. Shimshon Pincus says, the man was telling Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon, you're not calling me ugly because of my aesthetic. You're calling me ugly because you see to my soul. And you see that I have flaws. And you see that I'm a problem. And you see that I commit sins. You see that I'm an issue. Says this man to Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon, you could see things. See deeper. See that God created me with good things and with bad, with flaws and with attributes, but see deeper. The man is imploring Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon to look closer. And when he looks closer, Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon says, oh my goodness, what was I thinking saying that you're ugly? You want to know the mission statement of Tisha B'Av? It's hard to love people. Look closer. Just look closer. You see somebody that's a problem. You see somebody that's a flaw. Look closer. You see somebody that you don't like. You see somebody that's hurt you. Look closer. If you make a choice to look closer, that is within our bechira, that's within our free will. That's what the Ramchal is talking about. That we have a choice that we have to make. And we make that choice, that turns the tide. And that takes a day that people think is a big, fat waste of time. And turns it and changes the whole world. You know how many people are sitting on the floor and are not eating across the world right now? Hundreds upon hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. Do you know how many of them take the day to reflect? I'd imagine not so many. At least not enough. But could you imagine if every single person came out of the day and said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look closer. I'm going to see the optical illusion. And I'm not just going to see the hazy image, but I'm going to see the beauty in every person. Do you realize what would happen? The world would change on a dime. People say it's hard to like people. Rabbi, I got a sister-in-law, I got a brother-in-law, I got an uncle, and somebody, they messed me over in business, this person hurt me, that person doesn't talk to me because they're upset that I stiffed them on something, I didn't take them on a vacation, they didn't say hello to me, they stepped on my kavod, they weren't nice to my mother. We've heard it all. What if I told you, you're right 99% of the time? But that's not the point. The point is this, is that it famously says in the Pasuk, Mi ka'amcha Yisrael, goy echad ba'aretz. And what does it mean? We're asking Hashem, who is like your nation, Yisrael? We are goy echad. We are one nation, ba'aretz, in the land. What does it mean, goy echad ba'aretz? We're not one nation. There's a million nations. They might not be like us, but there's a lot of nations. There's hundreds of nations. So what does that mean, the goy echad ba'aretz? Chachamim say what it means is we're miyuchat. We're unique and we're special. I want to take you, if I can, through a little bit of a tiny little 360-degree tour of the nation that we are lucky to be a part of. And pay attention if you can. And if you're sleeping, wake up. And if you're on your phone, put it away. Top to bottom, cradle to grave, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, we are covered. What do I mean we are covered? And I wrote it down. I said from cradle to grave. There is an organization for everything a person could possibly think of. You don't have children? Bonei Olam, A-Time, SBH Fertility, Pua, Knafayim. These are all organizations that exist for the betterment of you and me. And there's more. Let's talk about the grave. Mesaskin, Chesed Shel Emet, relief. These are just some of them that exist here, right here, present in the tri-state area. How about somebody's going through something while they're still alive? Not before they're born, not after they pass, but while they're still alive. There's renewal, there's Chesed 24/7, there's Satmar, there's Hatzalah Air, there's Vital One. If somebody has a family member that's going through an issue, then the person who has the family member going through the issue has Chai 24/7. They have Tansers. They have Chai Lifeline. They have Habayit. Somebody's, God forbid, going through their own particular illness. There's RCCS. There's the Cancer Center. There's people who have special needs children. There's special needs. There's Special Children's Center. There's SHI. If somebody has somebody who's elderly to take care of them, there's another organization for that. There's SBH Seniors. There's Randy's Care. Somebody has somebody going through a mental health issue. There's mental wellness. There's Simha. There's relief. Somebody passes the age of 12th grade. There's Kesher. Somebody needs to get married. There's Mikudeshet. Somebody needs to get married, but they can't afford it. There's Simachot. There's Levavi. There's Yad Yosef Bridal Fund. There's Dress a Bride. Do you realize that that's the nation that you're a part of? Do you understand that if for a second you'd go outside this faith, for 1 second, all of that would be gone? Because nobody in the world cares about their fellow man but us. Nobody. Go look out into the world. Go see somebody that's on the side of the road that their car broke down, they have a flat tire. Go look at them if they're not wearing a kippah. How many people stop for them? The tow truck that was called for a fee. Now go, I dare you, or I challenge you to take a kippah and put it on your head and put your hazards on and pull over to the side of the road. I guarantee you, if you're on the Garden State Parkway, minimum a dozen cars will stop for you. They never met you. They don't know you. They probably wouldn't even eat in your house. And you wouldn't eat in theirs for different reasons. And yet, They'll stop for you, and you'd probably stop for them. Mi ka'amcha Yisrael goy echad ba'aretz. You know what it means? It means we're the only ones who could claim that we're a nation, because we're the only ones who really care for each other. You want to know how it's possible to love people? How is it possible not to love people? If you take a minute and we choose to look closer, you realize the beauty that we are in. Nobody else could lay claim to this. In the history of the world, nobody else could say this. I'll give you individual examples. Imagine you went out to eat. You went out to dinner with your wife Saturday night. Went out to dinner. And you lean into your pocket and you realize you forgot your credit card. And you look around the restaurant, you don't know anybody. But they're all SY. Does anybody here not believe that they can walk over to somebody, tap them on the shoulder, say, do me a favor, pay for me, and I'll sell you? Of course you can. Do me a favor. Next time you're on the New Jersey Turnpike, go to Wawa. Go to the line. Go to the gentleman that's in front of you. Tyrone, whatever his name is. Tap him on the shoulder, say, do me a favor, would you mind paying for me? He'd call the cops on you. He'd think you lost your mind. Everybody knows everything I'm saying, but we don't reflect on it. We don't focus on it. We don't choose to look closer. I'll give you an individual example. It sounds communal. All these organizations, they're a big deal. Maybe people are getting paid salaries. Last week, a very, very chashuv and holy man passed away in Lakewood. Very young man. His name was Rabbi Yoshua Max. Big beard, big peot, black hat, very yeshivish man. Haram, he had 10 children that he left behind. He passed away from the machala. The way I understand this, he passed away from cancer. Obviously, passed away with no money. A story came out of this man who you never heard of, and I never heard of. During Shiva, the following story came out. This man had to go for treatment. And like I told you, he was as yeshivish as they come. You could see a picture, you can Google it tonight. Big beard, tied down, a little bit disheveled at times, big peot, but a big smile on his face, a big, huge black hat. A story came out from a Gentile who was in treatment with him. And the story goes, and this is the title of the story, Pod to Pod Singing. I looked at the story, I said, what's the story? Listen to this. This yeshivish guy, black hat, from, learns all day, rabbi, Talmid Chacham. It can make you cry. During treatment, as he's receiving chemo, as it's going through his system, this man, he took his treatment and he took the wheelie that held the bags, and he went from pod to pod, from section to section of where they were doing treatment. And he went around the ward singing to each one of the patients. He went from patient to patient and he sang a song just to brighten their day. He don't know them. They don't know him. They're not even Jewish. One person said they were French. He sang the French national anthem to them. I will tell you, that's a Jew. That's what we do. You tell me, you've been to a hospital before? Does anybody come around to sing to you? Nobody cares. But this is a Jew. This is literally somebody who is born and bred and nurtured in our nation. I'll take the story one step further. He passed away. He was too ill to have insurance. So he didn't have life insurance. He's got 10 children. They launched a campaign a day ago. How much money do you think they raised in 12 hours? $2.2 million cash for his family. How much do you think they raised for the fires in LA last year? How much do you think they raised for starvation in Africa? How much do you think? 2.2 million in 12 hours. This is who we're a part of. I'll give you one closer to home. When my father, alav shalom, was sick, it's always still very hard to talk about, as you all know. It's the one thing that gets me very choked up. When my father was sick, obviously the community helped in every single way. My father was in a private suite for like a Saudi prince. We didn't pay for that. The community paid for that. My father had aides around the clock. Flights to Israel. I don't know what was going on. Till today, now I know someone who paid for things, but it's a crazy thing. And the Hakarat HaTov is infinite. And they wanted to. Some of it we could have paid for, but they wanted to. This is the community we're a part of. This is the nation we're a part of. But there's a story that struck me. It's not the biggest story. It definitely wasn't the most expensive. Definitely not. People who paid $100,000 to get my family to and from Israel, crazy things. People pay for them. You can't even imagine. Just because of the goodness of their heart. This is our people. One day I could wax poetic. I know the people today a little bit more than I did then. I'm hakarat hatov to them until forever. But just one interesting story happened. We were in, at that time, Mount Sinai. And it was a very dire diagnosis. My father was basically officially supposed to pass away within a few days. That was officially. Of course, Hashem had other plans, but that was official. I'll never forget this moment. Our family had been transferred there and we were starving. We hadn't eaten. We were so hungry. I have no idea how this even happened. But somebody who was a partner in a very high-end restaurant in Manhattan walks into the hospital at 12 o'clock at night, and he's got thousands of dollars worth of food with him. I'm talking about thousands. If I told you the place, you know the place. I don't want to make you hungry, but it was bags and bags and bags of food. Steaks and burgers and chicken. It was like 7 people. If they could feed 70 people. It was insane. And I asked him, I said, I don't understand. You're a wealthy man, pretty much said to him. Like, don't even work in the restaurant. I said, what? Why do you send it with somebody? Send it with a cab. Send it with anybody. Send it with a waiter. He says, no. Then I would lose out. Think of that mentality. Believe it or not, more people than you think have that mentality. And I would lose out. I want to do good. I want to give you one even closer to home. 2 days ago, a rabbi told me that he needs to spend some quality time with his son for whatever reason. And he said he wants to come to Deal for 2 days. So I put on one of my learning chats, I said, boys, does anybody have points? I want to put this rabbi up in a hotel. Nobody asked me why. Nobody asked me who. Every guy, I have Sheridan, I have Bonvoy, I could put him in a Marriott. Where could you put me? One guy said, I don't have points, but I want to pay for the whole thing. By the time I was done, I could have had him in the hotel for a month and a half. I didn't even book it yet because I don't know which guy to lean on for the points. I will tell you that small things and the big things is the nation that we are a part of. People like taking the opportunity of Tisha B'Av, and they like taking this opportunity to talk about things that I would say are very grand and are very large and maybe are very impactful. I don't want to talk about any of that. I just want to tell you one thing. That we are a part of the greatest nation in the world. And you know what makes up that nation? The individual people that sit in this room and the ones that sit in the shul over and the ones that sit in the shul over that and so on and so forth across the whole world. Because you and I both know that if we weren't a part of this nation, we would be doomed. And if we choose to focus on that every single day, and we choose, it's a decision that we make, to look closer every single time, then every time you will see the beauty in a person. You're right, that person has flaws. But like Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon, you take a minute, you reflect, and you look closer, and you say, oh my gosh, how right he is. It's 100% true. And I don't care if the person is old or they're young, or they're religious or they're not, or they're rich or they're poor, or they're Aswad Ashkenaz, or they're Hasidish or they're Chabad, or they're whatever. It doesn't make a difference. They've wronged you. They wronged you again. They wronged you once after that. All that might be true. But choose to look closer. The Pele Yoed says, you know how we're supposed to interact with people? As though, and I paraphrase, as though they are our children, as though they are our family. If my child does something to me, throws yogurt at me, says, Daddy, you're so mean, I love them just the same. Because I know that our hearts are connected one to the other. This is momentary. This is nothing. Because our love for each other supersedes. You're not going to leave here and think about some sort of grand concept. You're going to leave here, I hope, and say, I knew that. I know that. But now it's my job to choose that. Because, and we'll close in a minute, the reason everybody needs to make this choice is because I'll tell you what the other option is. The other option is this. The other option is doom and gloom. The other option is every person who is suffering still suffers. The other option is every family that is waiting for a child and can't have one still waits. The other option is that every person who has a family member who is ill and they're telling them that there's no hope left. And the other option is basically that there's no hope left. The other option is that every person who has a mind that is playing games with them, a mind that is turning on them, mental health issues that are dogging them. The other option is they still dog them. The other option is those that don't have any money and can't seem to get ahead in life and can't seem to pay their bills. The other option is that's essentially this year's destiny. The other option is those who are begging Hashem for a match and are crying to sleep at night. Or 27, 28, 29, 30, 34, 35, and are good, solid, beautiful, wonderful girls or wonderful boys. And they're itching to get married and they can't find their zivug. The other option is that. And the other option is that our brothers and sisters in Israel every day have to watch another person die and have to run to a bomb shelter. And those in the north and those in the south have to wonder when they're going back home. And the other option is the families that are estranged, that are pulled apart for one reason or another, remain that way. Abatai, why does it have to be that way? Think about it for just a minute. Why does it have to be that way? It's a decision that people are making. It's a decision that we could change. Yes, we could change. So when Chazal tell us that those who the Beit HaMikdash wasn't built in that generation, it's ki'ilu nechrav biyamav. It's true. It's as if we destroyed it because we are choosing not to rebuild it. And the reason we're choosing not to rebuild it is because we're not looking close enough. It's a choice, but it's not really a choice. It's a choice because it's true we can make one selection or another. But it's a choice, almost like saying that driving on the road or going off the cliff is a choice. It's a fake choice. People might walk out and they might say, you know, it's I got it, but what's the drama? If you say that, then it means you don't care. And I don't believe that anybody doesn't care. I think that everybody cares. Maybe I'm a fool, maybe I'm naive, but I think everybody cares. We have an opportunity in this community, specifically, to love each other. And the truth is, you might say it's harder than most communities. I firmly disagree. I think it's a whole lot easier. Anybody here who ever sat Shiva knows the love that comes out of this community. Any person that ever went to a hospital, that ever got into an accident, that ever needed something knows the love that comes out of this community. I don't care if you wear this type of shirt or that type of shirt, this type of hat or that type of hat. Pray here, pray there. It's not relevant. Look closer. There's people who love to see the flaws in other people. And sometimes they're right. Actually, very often they're right. Why don't you use that skill set? Use that deciphering, discerning skill set to find the beauty in other people. You know what happens if we do? The tide completely begins to change. That doesn't make them perfect. That doesn't make them right. That doesn't make them a saint. Doesn't make them a malach. Don't worry. They'll get the musar that they need. What it makes them is your opportunity to change the tide. I don't think the Tisha B'Av is a waste of time. I think going in, we think it is. But I think as we experience the Tisha B'Av, it becomes less and less of a waste of time. If I can give a suggestion, it's hard to love people. But once you look closer, it's harder not to love people. Take the opportunity of this Tisha B'Av. That is a choice that we make. And who knows? Maybe we could even turn the tide. All I know is this. Mi ki amcha Yisrael. Who is like our nation? Goy echad ba'aretz. We're the only ones that can claim that we have the beauty that we have. Look at each other, see each other, and for goodness sakes, choose to see the beauty in one another. It's given a Hamad Siyut.